I was going to be late. Again. My heels clicked frantically against the marble floor of the Westbrook Tower lobby as I juggled my portfolio, laptop bag, and the rapidly cooling coffee I'd grabbed 3 blocks ago. The presentation boards inside my portfolio kept threatening to slip, and I could feel sweat beginning to form at my hairline, despite the building's aggressive air conditioning. This was it. 6 months of work, countless sleepless nights, and my entire professional reputation balanced on the next 45 minutes. The Castellano account would either make my small design firm a major player in the industry or confirm everyone's suspicions that I was just another freelancer who got lucky once. I'd already been warned. Mr. Castellano doesn't tolerate lateness. Mr. Castellano expects perfection. Mr. Castellano will end the meeting the second you lose his attention. Great. No pressure. The elevator doors were closing when I lurched forward, my hand shooting out desperately. Wait, please. A hand appeared from inside, stopping the doors. I stumbled into the elevator, breathless and disheveled, my professional composure already crumbling. Thank you so much. I'm running late for... The words died on my lips as I looked up at my savior. He was unfairly attractive. The kind of attractive that should come with a warning label. Tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair that looked artfully tousled in a way that probably took no effort at all. His charcoal suit was clearly custom-tailored, fitting him perfectly across the chest before tapering at the waist. But it was his eyes that caught me. Storm gray, intelligent, with a hint of amusement that suggested he knew exactly the effect he had on people. 47th floor? He asked, his voice a low rumble that did absolutely inappropriate things to my already frazzled nervous system. Yes, thank you. I pressed myself against the opposite wall, suddenly hyper-aware of how I must look. Flushed, sweaty, my carefully styled hair already escaping its pins. He pressed the button, and I noticed his hands. Strong, elegant fingers. A watch that probably cost more than my car. No wedding ring. Stop it, Maya. Focus. You have a career-defining presentation in approximately 8 minutes. Important meeting? He asked, his eyes dropping to my overstuffed portfolio. Design presentation. Make or break kind of situation. I don't know why I was telling him this. Maybe because he seemed genuinely interested, rather than just making elevator small talk. Nervous? Terrified, I admitted, which is why I'm probably going to vibrate out of my skin if this elevator moves any slower. His mouth curved into a slight smile. It was devastating. It helps to breathe. Is that your professional advice? The words came out more flirtatious than intended. Apparently, stress made me reckless. Among other things. The amusement in his eyes deepened. I find that confidence usually carries the day more than perfection. That's easy to say when you're not the one about to present to someone who apparently eats designers for breakfast. Castellano? He asked, something shifting in his expression. You know him? We've met. His tone was neutral, revealing nothing. He appreciates boldness. Don't let him intimidate you. The elevator slowed as we approached the 47th floor. I adjusted my grip on my portfolio, trying to ignore the way my hands were shaking. Thank you for the advice, I said as the doors opened, and for holding the elevator. Good luck, Maya. I froze. How did you... He nodded toward my portfolio, where my name was printed in small letters on the corner. Breathe, he reminded me, that smile playing at his lips again. You'll be brilliant. The doors closed before I could respond, leaving me standing in the reception area with my heart pounding for reasons that had nothing to do with my presentation. Focus, Maya. Hot stranger aside, you have a job to do. The receptionist directed me to a private conference room, where I was informed Mr. Castellano would join me shortly. I used the time to set up my presentation boards, willing my hands to steady. The room was all glass and steel, with a view of the city that probably cost more per square foot than my entire apartment. I was adjusting my presentation for the third time when I heard voices in the hallway. Multiple people, all talking in that hushed, deferential tone that usually preceded someone important. The door opened. No, 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 no. The man from the elevator walked in, flanked by 2 assistants carrying tablets and looking decidedly less friendly than he had moments ago. He was shrugging out of his suit jacket, which one of the assistants immediately took. His white shirt was pristine, the sleeves already rolled up to his forearms in a way that should be illegal. "Ms. Mitchell," he said, his tone professional but with an undercurrent of amusement. "Shall we begin?" I stood there like an idiot, my brain trying to reconcile the helpful stranger from the elevator with the notorious Marcus Castellano, real estate mogul and, if the rumors were true, something significantly more dangerous. "Mr. Castellano," I managed, proud that my voice didn't crack. "I didn't realize that I was your make-or-break meeting." He settled into the chair at the head of the table, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp. "You were more honest in the elevator. I appreciated that." Heat flooded my face. Everything I'd said, every nervous admission, had been to the very person I'd been trying to impress. Perfect. "I apologize for my informal—" "Don't." He cut me off, his tone firm. "I told you I appreciate boldness. Now show me what 6 months of work looks like." I took a breath, then another. His advice echoed in my mind. Confidence carries the day. Right. I could do this. I'd prepared for this. I launched into my presentation, and within minutes, I forgot to be embarrassed. This was my element. I walked him through the rebranding concept, the market research, the demographic targeting. I'd designed every detail to position his properties as luxury living spaces that felt like home, rather than just expensive real estate. He listened without interrupting, his attention never wavering. It was simultaneously intimidating and exhilarating. When I finished, the silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. "Interesting," he finally said, leaning forward to examine one of the boards more closely. "You focused heavily on the emotional aspect of home ownership." "Yes. Your properties are already known for luxury, but luxury alone doesn't make people choose one building over another. Belonging does. Home does." "And you think you can sell that?" "I know I can." The confidence in my voice surprised even me. His lips curved into that same devastating smile from the elevator. "Bold. I like it." We spent the next 20 minutes dissecting details, and I was surprised to find that he had genuine insights rather than just executive-level generalities. He understood branding in a way that went beyond profit margins. "We should celebrate," he said abruptly, standing and buttoning his shirt cuff. "Your presentation convinced me. The contract is yours." The relief that washed through me was so intense I felt lightheaded. "Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Castellano." "Marcus," he corrected, and I meant celebrate now. "There's a corporate mixer downstairs. Networking opportunity. Unless you have other plans?" I thought of my empty apartment and the frozen dinner waiting in my freezer. "No plans." "Good." He gestured toward the door. "Shall we?" The mixer was already in full swing when we arrived at the building's event space. Crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures, servers circulating with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. The kind of event where everyone was dressed in designer labels and spoke in that particular cadence of the professionally successful. I felt immediately out of place in my simple white blouse and black pencil skirt, my portfolio still clutched like a security blanket. "Relax," Marcus murmured near my ear, his breath warm against my skin. "You belong here as much as anyone." "Easy for you to say. You're wearing a suit that probably costs more than my monthly rent. Then I'm clearly overpaying for rent." His hand settled at the small of my back, guiding me through the crowd. The touch was light, professional, but I felt it like a brand through the fabric of my blouse. He introduced me to what felt like 100 people: developers, architects, marketing executives. Each one treated me with a respect I knew came entirely from my proximity to Marcus. His endorsement of my work opened doors I'd been trying to breach for years. "You don't have to do this," I told him during a rare moment alone. "I already have the contract. Consider it part of the service." He handed me a glass of champagne from a passing server. "Besides, I'm enjoying watching you charm my colleagues." "I'm not charming anyone. I'm terrified. Could have fooled me." His eyes held mine for a moment too long, and I felt that electric awareness spark between us again. Dangerous territory. I looked away first, taking a sip of champagne to cover my confusion. This was my client. My very important, very powerful, possibly very criminal client. The smart thing would be to keep this professional. The problem was, I'd never been particularly smart about attractive men who looked at me like I was the only person in the room. Maya Mitchell? A nasally voice cut through my thoughts. I turned to find Brandon Hightower, my ex-boyfriend and professional nemesis, approaching with his trademark smug expression. "I heard rumors you were presenting to Castellano. How did that go?" The condescension in his voice made my teeth clench. Brandon had made it his mission to undermine me ever since I'd turned down his job offer, and his assumption that dating me gave him ownership of my work. "It went well, actually," I said evenly. "I got the contract." His expression flickered with surprise before settling back into smugness. "Really? Well, congratulations. Though I have to warn you, Castellano's reputation for being demanding is well earned. I hope you're prepared for that." Before I could respond, Marcus materialized at my side. "Hightower," he said coolly. "I wasn't aware you were invited." Brandon's confidence visibly wavered. "Mr. Castellano, I came with the Morrison Group. We're consulting on the residential." "We're consulting," Marcus corrected, his tone casual but with an edge that made Brandon pale slightly. "That contract was terminated this morning. Substandard work." I bit my lip to hide my smile, as Brandon stammered something about misunderstandings and second chances. Marcus dismissed him with barely a glance. "Was that necessary?" I asked once Brandon had retreated, though I couldn't quite suppress my grin. "Absolutely." Marcus's hand found the small of my back again. "He was bothering you. You can't just fire people because they annoy me. I didn't fire him because he annoyed you. I fired him because his work was substandard. The fact that he annoyed you was simply a pleasant bonus." I laughed, surprising myself. "You're terrible." "So I've been told." His smile was unrepentant, though usually not with quite so much fondness in the tone. We were standing close now, closer than professional distance dictated. I could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle that made me want to lean in and breathe deeper. This was a bad idea, a monumentally bad idea. The decision was made for me when someone jostled past Marcus, sending him forward slightly. His glass tilted, and before either of us could react, red wine cascaded down the front of my pristine white blouse. I gasped as the cold liquid hit my skin, soaking through the fabric instantly. The wine spread across my chest in an expanding crimson stain, ruining the blouse completely. "Christo," Marcus swore, immediately setting down his glass and pulling out his pocket square. "I'm so sorry." "It's fine," I said automatically, even though it absolutely wasn't fine. This was my best blouse, and I had nothing else to wear, and everyone was staring, and "It's not fine." His jaw was tight with frustration. "Come with me." "What? No, I can just—" "Maya." His hand closed gently around my wrist. "Let me fix this." Before I could protest further, he was guiding me out of the event space and toward the elevators. I was too shocked to argue, too aware of the sticky wine soaking through to my skin and the fact that my white blouse was now completely see-through. "Where are we going?" I asked as the elevator doors closed. My apartment. It's in this building. He kept his eyes carefully on the ascending numbers. You can't walk around like that. I can just go home. And miss the rest of the networking event? After all the people you just impressed? He finally looked at me, and there was something in his expression that wasn't just professional courtesy. Besides, this is my fault. Let me help. The elevator opened directly into a penthouse apartment that made my jaw drop. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, minimalist furniture that screamed expensive taste, art on the walls that I was pretty sure belonged in museums. Bathrooms through there, Marcus said, gesturing to a hallway. I'll find you something to wear. I stood dripping wine onto his probably priceless hardwood floors, torn between mortification and an entirely inappropriate awareness of being alone with him in his apartment. Marcus, go. His voice was gentle but firm. Before that stain sets permanently. In the bathroom, which was larger than my bedroom and featured a shower that could fit 6 people, I peeled off the ruined blouse and tried not to think about the fact that I was standing half naked in Marcus Castellano's apartment. This was not how I'd envisioned this day going. A knock on the bathroom door made me jump. I'm leaving some options on the bed, Marcus called through the door. Take your time. I wrapped myself in the plush towel I found hanging nearby, monogrammed, naturally, and cracked the door open after I heard his footsteps retreat. True to his word, several items of clothing were laid out on the massive bed in the adjoining master bedroom. The bedroom was as impeccably designed as the rest of the apartment. Dark wood furniture, charcoal bedding that looked sinfully soft, another wall of windows with blackout curtains pulled back to showcase the glittering city below. Everything about the space screamed wealth and power, from the crystal decanter on the dresser to the Italian leather chairs positioned near the window. I approached the bed and examined my options. He'd laid out what appeared to be a woman's silk blouse in deep emerald, a cashmere sweater, and, I laughed despite myself, one of his own dress shirts, still crisp from the dry cleaner. The blouse and sweater were beautiful, but felt too intimate, too much like wearing something that belonged to someone else in his life. The shirt, at least, was clearly his. I picked it up, the fabric cool and expensive against my fingers. It was going to be enormous on me. I dried off and slipped into the shirt, my fingers fumbling with the buttons. It fell to mid-thigh, the shoulders drooping comically off my frame. I rolled the sleeves up multiple times, trying to make it look somewhat intentional, rather than like I was drowning in fabric. The mirror over his dresser confirmed what I already knew. I looked ridiculous. But at least I was covered. When I emerged from the bedroom, I found Marcus in the kitchen area, his own shirt now changed to a fresh one, though he'd left more buttons undone than was probably appropriate for someone who was supposed to be my client. He was pouring 2 glasses of wine and looked up when I entered. He stopped mid-pour, his eyes traveling slowly from my bare feet up the expanse of exposed leg to where the shirt hung off my shoulders. Something heated flickered in his expression before he controlled it. It's a bit big, I said unnecessarily, tugging at the collar. It's perfect, he replied, his voice slightly rougher than before. He cleared his throat and finished pouring the wine. Red or white? Though given recent events, perhaps we should stick to white. I laughed, some of the tension easing from my shoulders. White sounds safer. He handed me a glass, and our fingers brushed. The contact was brief but electric, sending a shiver up my arm that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. I really am sorry about your blouse, he said, leading me toward the windows. Send me the bill for replacement. It was an accident. You don't need to. Maya. He looked at me seriously. Let me do this, please. There was something in his tone, almost vulnerable, that made me nod. Okay, thank you. We stood at the window. The city spread out below us like a carpet of lights. This high up, the sounds of traffic and humanity were muted to almost nothing. It felt removed from reality, suspended in time. "This view," I said quietly. "I'd never leave if I lived here. It loses its charm when you're alone." The admission seemed to surprise him, as much as it surprised me. He took a sip of wine, his expression carefully neutral. "Though I suppose that's true of most things." I glanced at him. This powerful man who seemed to have everything, and wondered what it cost him. The isolation, the carefully maintained control, the reputation that preceded him into every room. "The rumors about you," I found myself saying. "Are they true?" "Which rumors?" He turned to face me fully, his expression unreadable. "That you're more than just a real estate developer. That you're connected." I'd expected him to deflect or deny. Instead, he studied me for a long moment. "Does it matter?" "I don't know," I answered honestly. "Should it?" "Most people think so." He set down his wine glass, his movements controlled and precise. "Most people hear the name Castellano and make certain assumptions, usually correct ones. And you're telling me this because you asked directly. I respect that." He moved closer, not touching, but near enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from him. "And because I think you should know what you're getting into." I thought I was just getting a contract. His mouth curved into that devastating smile. "Is that all you want, Maya?" The question hung between us, loaded with implications that we both understood. This was the moment, the decision point. I could laugh it off, maintain professional distance, go back to my normal life with a great client and a slightly embarrassing story. Or I could be honest. "No," I whispered, "that's not all I want." His hand came up to cup my face, his thumb brushing across my cheekbone. "Tell me to stop." I should have. Every rational thought in my brain was screaming at me to step back, to remember that this was my client, that he was dangerous, that mixing business with pleasure was a recipe for disaster. Instead, I leaned into his touch. "I don't want you to stop." He kissed me like he'd been thinking about it for hours. Like maybe he'd been thinking about it since the elevator. His mouth was firm against mine, demanding but not aggressive, his hand sliding into my hair to tilt my head to the angle he wanted. I made a sound, surprise or pleasure or both, and his free arm came around my waist, pulling me flush against him. The wine glass in my hand was plucked away, set aside somewhere, and then both of his hands were on me, one tangled in my hair, the other splayed across my lower back. I'd been kissed before. I'd been kissed well before. But nothing had prepared me for kissing Marcus Castellano. He kissed like a man who knew exactly what he wanted and had no patience for anything less than total surrender. His tongue traced the seam of my lips, and when I opened for him, the kiss deepened into something that made my knees weak. My hands found their way to his chest, feeling the solid muscle beneath the expensive fabric. His heart was racing, matching the frantic rhythm of my own. When his mouth left mine to trail kisses along my jaw, down my throat, I heard myself make a sound that should have embarrassed me. "Dio, Maya," he murmured against my skin. "You're going to be the death of me." His hands had found the bottom of the shirt, his shirt, and were sliding underneath, his palms warm against my bare skin. When his fingers traced the line of my spine, I arched into him instinctively. This was moving fast. Too fast. We should stop, should talk, should establish some kind of boundaries before this went any further. But his mouth had found that spot just below my ear, and coherent thought became increasingly difficult. "Marcus," I managed, though whether it was a protest or encouragement, even I wasn't sure. He pulled back slightly, his breathing ragged, his eyes dark with desire. Too much. I should say yes, should laugh this off and go home and pretend this surge of want coursing through me was just adrenaline from the successful presentation. Not enough, I heard myself say instead. Something fierce and possessive flashed in his eyes. In one fluid motion, he lifted me, my legs wrapping automatically around his waist as he carried me back toward the bedroom. "Wait," I said against his mouth. "What about the event downstairs? They'll survive without us." He laid me on the bed, following me down, his weight pressing me into the mattress in a way that made me forget why I'd asked the question. "Unless you want to go back?" I looked up at him, this dangerous, powerful man who was looking at me like I was the only thing that mattered in the world. My fingers found the buttons of his shirt, already working them open. "I really don't." Somewhere in the hazy aftermath, wrapped in sheets that probably cost more than my couch and Marcus's arms around me like I was something precious, reality began creeping back in. I'd just slept with my client. My very important, very powerful, possibly very dangerous client. On the day I'd secured the biggest contract of my career. This was either the best or worst decision I'd ever made, and I had no idea which. Marcus's fingers traced lazy patterns on my shoulder, his breathing still not quite steady. "I can hear you thinking. Is that a problem?" "Depends on what you're thinking." He propped himself up on one elbow, looking down at me with an expression that was softer than I'd seen from him before. "Regrets?" I considered lying, considered making this easier by pretending this was just a one-time thing, a moment of weakness fueled by champagne and adrenaline. But I'd already decided I wasn't going to lie to Marcus Castellano. "No," I said honestly, though I probably should. His mouth curved. "Because I'm your client?" "Among other reasons." "Such as?" I turned to face him fully, taking in the sharp lines of his face, the intensity in his eyes even now. "You're dangerous, Marcus, and I'm not talking about the business deals. I would never hurt you. That's not what I mean." I struggled to find the words. "I barely know you, but I can already feel myself getting pulled in, and that terrifies me." His hand came up to cup my face, his thumb brushing across my lower lip. "Good. Because you terrify me too." Before I could process that admission, his phone buzzed on the nightstand. He grabbed it with a muttered curse, his expression darkening as he read the screen. "I have to take this," he said, already pulling away. "Business." I watched him leave the bedroom, unself-conscious in his nakedness as he barked orders in rapid Italian into the phone. This was his world. Power plays and late-night crises, decisions that probably affected thousands of people, a life lived in the shadows of legitimacy. And somehow, impossibly, I was now part of it. I sat up, pulling the sheet around myself, and caught sight of my reflection in the mirror across from the bed. I looked thoroughly ravished, my hair a mess, my lips swollen, my neck marked by his mouth. I looked like someone who'd made a choice she couldn't take back. Marcus returned a few minutes later, his expression apologetic. "I'm sorry. Something's come up that needs my attention." "It's fine. I should probably get home anyway." I started to rise, suddenly aware of my nakedness and the intimacy of the situation. "Stay." His hand caught mine, stopping me. "Please. I'll be done in an hour, maybe less. We could have dinner, talk." The offer was tempting, too tempting, and that was exactly the problem. "I don't think that's a good idea," I said gently. This was incredible. But we should probably figure out what this means before we go any further. His jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Let me at least have my driver take you home. I can take a cab." "Maya." His tone left no room for argument. "It's late. You're in my shirt, and I'm not letting you wander around the city alone. Driver isn't negotiable." I almost argued, but the protective edge in his voice stopped me. Instead, I nodded, gathering my ruined blouse and my belongings while he made a call. He walked me to the elevator, now fully dressed again in fresh clothes, looking every inch the powerful businessman. But when the elevator doors opened, he pulled me back for one more kiss. This one slow and thorough and full of promise. "This isn't over," he said against my lips. "We will talk about what this means." "Is that an order, Mr. Castellano?" I tried to keep my tone light, but my heart was racing again. "Yes." His smile was wicked. "Get used to that." The elevator doors closed on his knowing smirk, and I leaned against the wall, my mind reeling. One day, one presentation, one ruined blouse, and my entire life had shifted on its axis. The driver, a stoic man named Vincent who asked no questions and made no conversation, delivered me to my modest apartment building in Queens. The contrast between Marcus's world and mine had never been more stark. I let myself in, dropped my bag and ruined blouse on the floor, and collapsed on my second-hand couch, still wearing Marcus's shirt. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Sleep well, Maya. Dream of me." I saved the number under dangerous and fell asleep with a smile on my face, wrapped in his shirt and his scent, already knowing that whatever came next, I was in far too deep to back out now. Monday morning arrived with the subtle persistence of a freight train. I'd spent the weekend oscillating between euphoria over landing the Castellano contract and mild panic over what I'd done in his apartment. My phone had remained suspiciously quiet. No texts, no calls, no demanding messages from Marcus. Which was fine. Totally fine. We were both adults who'd made a choice. He was busy running his empire, and I had work to do on said empire's rebranding. Professional distance. That was the key. This resolution lasted approximately until I walked into my studio at 8:30 and found a massive bouquet of white roses on my desk. "Those arrived 20 minutes ago," said Jess, my assistant, and the only other person who worked in our converted warehouse space. Her eyes were practically sparkling with curiosity. The delivery guy looked scared. Who sends roses that look like they cost more than my rent? I pulled the card from its holder with trembling fingers. "For your work wardrobe, though I prefer you in my shirts." M attached was a black American Express card with my name embossed on it. "Oh my God," Jess breathed, reading over my shoulder. "Maya, who is M? And why does he have an Amex that makes my credit limit look like lunch money?" "Client," I managed, my brain trying to process the audacity. He'd sent me his credit card, his actual credit card, to replace a blouse. That's not a client gift. That's a "I want to dress you" gift. That's a "you're mine" gift. Jess grabbed my arm. "Spill. Now." I told her an edited version. The wine spill, the apartment, the shirt. I left out the part where I'd woken up tangled in his sheets and his arms, where his mouth had traced every inch of my body, where he'd made me come apart so thoroughly I'd forgotten my own name. "You slept with Marcus Castellano," Jess concluded, because she was annoyingly perceptive. "Holy shit, Maya. Do you know who he is? A real estate developer with too much money and very nice taste in shirts? Try the real estate developer who owns half of New York's luxury properties, who has connections to every major business deal in the city, whose family name is whispered about in the same breath as organized crime." She grabbed her laptop. "Google him. Seriously." I did, and immediately wished I hadn't. Articles upon articles. Marcus Castellano, youngest son of the notorious Romano Castellano family. Suspected ties to organized crime, though never charged. Known for hostile takeovers and ruthless business practices. A string of beautiful women photographed on his arm at various galas, none lasting more than a few months. And then, buried in a society page from 3 months ago, sources close to the Castellano family report that Marcus is expected to announce his engagement to Victoria Ashford, daughter of Manhattan District Attorney Robert Ashford, in the coming months. My stomach dropped. "Maya?" Jess's voice seemed to come from very far away. "You okay? You look like you're going to be sick." I need to make a call, I said, already pulling out my phone. Marcus answered on the second ring. Maya, did you get the flowers? And the credit card, which I'm sending back. I moved to the small office I used for client calls, shutting the door. We need to talk. I'm listening. Not over the phone, in person. A pause. My office. 1 hour? Your office is intimidating and full of people. Somewhere neutral. The coffee shop 2 blocks from your studio. Noon. It wasn't a question. I'll see you there. He hung up before I could argue. The coffee shop was one of those aggressively trendy places with exposed brick and overpriced lattes. Marcus was already there when I arrived, occupying a corner table with a presence that made everyone else in the space seem slightly blurred. He stood when he saw me, and despite everything, my traitorous body responded to the sight of him. He'd dressed down, relatively speaking. Dark jeans that fit him perfectly, a charcoal Henley that clung to his shoulders, a leather jacket that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. You came, he said, gesturing to the seat across from him. 2 coffees were already waiting, 1 black, 1 a latte with what looked like vanilla. How did you know what I drink? You ordered it in the elevator. I pay attention. He settled back in his chair, his eyes never leaving my face. You're angry. I'm confused. And yes, a little angry. I pushed the credit card across the table toward him. I can't accept this. It's for replacing your blouse, as I said. A blouse costs $60, Marcus, not whatever the limit is on this thing. His mouth curved slightly. Consider it a wardrobe upgrade. You're going to be attending events for the campaign. You should have appropriate options. I have appropriate options. Maya. Who's Victoria Ashford? The change in his expression was subtle, but unmistakable. His jaw tightened, and something dangerous flickered in his eyes before he controlled it. How did you... Google. Apparently you're quite the celebrity, and apparently you're getting engaged soon. I kept my voice level despite the hurt blooming in my chest. Were you planning to mention that before or after we ended up in bed again? Victoria is not... He stopped, ran a hand through his hair in a gesture of frustration I'd never seen from him. It's complicated. I'm sure it is. I stood, grabbing my bag. For what it's worth, the sex was great. But I'm not interested in being someone's secret while you play happy families with the DA's daughter. His hand shot out, catching my wrist. Sit down. Let go of me. Please. The word seemed to cost him. Sit down. Let me explain. Against my better judgment, I sat. Marcus leaned forward, his voice low and intense. Victoria Ashford is a political arrangement. Nothing more. Our families have known each other for years. Her father believes an alliance would be beneficial for both parties. And you're just going along with it? I was. His eyes held mine. Until Friday night. One night of sex isn't going to change a political marriage, Marcus. It wasn't just sex. The certainty in his voice made my breath catch. You know it wasn't. Then what was it? I don't know yet. He sat back, his frustration evident. All I know is that I haven't stopped thinking about you. That I sent my assistant to 3 different boutiques to find flowers you'd like. That I rescheduled 2 meetings this morning because I wanted to make sure I had time for this conversation. Despite myself, I felt my anger softening. You didn't have to do all that. Yes, I did. His hand found mine across the table, his thumb tracing patterns on my wrist. Because the alternative was calling you at 3 in the morning when I couldn't sleep, because I kept remembering how you looked wearing my shirt. Heat flooded my face. Marcus, I'm not engaged to Victoria. I've never even kissed her. The engagement is speculation from society columnists who have nothing better to write about. He squeezed my hand gently. But you're right that my family expects it, that there are complications. What kind of complications? The kind that come with my last name. His expression darkened. You read the articles. You know what people say about my family. Are they true? Some of them. He didn't flinch from the admission. My father built an empire through methods that weren't always legal. I've spent the last 10 years legitimizing our holdings, distancing us from certain activities. Victoria's father is a key ally in that effort. So marrying her would complete your transformation into respectability. That's the theory. He signaled the barista for more coffee. The reality is more complicated. How? Because I don't love her. Because a marriage without that foundation is just another business deal, and I've done enough of those to last a lifetime. He met my eyes. And because I met someone who makes me question whether the plan I've been following for a decade is the right one. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. We barely know each other. Then let's fix that. He pulled out his phone, tapping something quickly before showing me the screen. Dinner? Thursday night. My place. I'll cook. You cook? My grandmother insisted. Said a man who couldn't feed himself wasn't worth marrying. His smile was softer than I'd seen it. Please, Maya. Give me a chance to do this right. Every rational thought in my brain was screaming warnings. This was messy, complicated, potentially dangerous in ways I couldn't fully comprehend. But when I looked at Marcus, I saw something beyond the power and the danger. I saw vulnerability, hope, and a desire for something real in a life probably filled with calculated moves and strategic alliances. Thursday, I agreed. But I'm not wearing your shirt this time. His grin was wicked. We'll see about that. The next few days passed in a blur of design work and escalating text messages. Marcus was either terrible at professional boundaries or deliberately ignoring them. I couldn't decide which. Working late? He'd text at odd hours. Always I'd reply, "You should rest. Can't have my designer burning out." Is that concern for my well-being or concern for your project? Both. Though the first might be slightly more prevalent. Slightly? Fine. Significantly. Happy? Jess noticed the change in me immediately. You're smiling at your phone again. This is either very good or very bad. Probably both, I admitted, saving another message thread. I'm having dinner with him Thursday. At his place? He's cooking. Oh, honey. She shook her head with a knowing look. You're already gone, aren't you? I wanted to deny it. Wanted to claim this was just casual, just exploration, just seeing where things went. But when Thursday arrived and I spent 2 hours getting ready, changing outfits 4 times before settling on a dress that walked the line between casual and stunning, I had to admit the truth. I was absolutely gone for Marcus Castellano. His apartment looked different in evening light. Softer, warmer, with candles scattered across surfaces, and music playing low in the background. Something classical I didn't recognize, but that felt expensive and sophisticated. Marcus met me at the elevator in jeans and a white t-shirt that showed off his build, an apron tied around his waist that should have looked ridiculous, but somehow didn't. You're early, he said, pulling me in for a kiss that made my toes curl. You said 6. I said 6:30. He smiled against my lips. But I'm not complaining. The kitchen smelled incredible. Garlic and herbs and something rich and savory. He'd set the island with actual china and crystal, flowers in the center that matched the ones he'd sent to my office. What are you making? I asked, accepting the glass of wine he poured. My grandmother's recipe, chicken cacciatore. He returned to the stove, stirring something that looked and smelled divine. She made it every Sunday. Family tradition. You miss her. Every day. His voice was softer than usual. She was the only one who saw me as just Marcus. Not Castellano, not the heir, just her grandson who liked to help in the kitchen. I moved closer, drawn by the vulnerability in his admission. "Tell me about her." He did, and as he cooked, I learned about a woman who'd emigrated from Sicily with nothing but determination and her recipes, who'd built a family through sheer force of will, who'd insisted that power without compassion was just cruelty dressed up. "She would have liked you," Marcus said, plating the food with surprising precision. "You remind me of her. That same fire. I'm not sure that's a compliment. Trust me, it is." He gestured to the dining table he'd set near the windows. "Shall we?" The food was extraordinary, rich and complex, the kind of meal that spoke of hours of patient preparation. We ate and talked, and with each passing minute, I felt the walls I'd carefully maintained crumbling further. Marcus told me about his work, about the challenges of legitimizing a business built on questionable foundations. I told him about my struggles to build a design firm in a market dominated by established names. "You'll do it," he said with such certainty that I almost believed him. "You have something they don't, vision and stubbornness." "Stubbornness?" "You told me no in the elevator. Do you know how many people tell me no?" "Probably not enough." His laugh was genuine and unguarded. "Probably not." After dinner, we moved to the couch, the city lights our backdrop. Marcus pulled me against his side, his arm around my shoulders, and it felt so natural I forgot to maintain distance. "Tell me something true," he said quietly. "Something you've never told anyone." I thought about deflecting, keeping things light. But something in his expression made me want to be honest. "I'm terrified I'm not good enough," I admitted. "That everyone's going to realize I'm just faking it. That the Castellano contract is a fluke, and eventually you'll see I'm not the designer you thought you hired." His arm tightened around me. "And I'm terrified that no one will ever see past my last name. That every relationship will be tainted by who my father was, what my family did. That I'll end up alone in this apartment with my legitimate business and my spotless reputation and absolutely no one who gives a damn about Marcus rather than Castellano." I turned to look at him, seeing the vulnerability in his eyes. "I see, Marcus." "I know." He cupped my face, his thumb brushing my cheekbone. "That's what terrifies me." When he kissed me this time, it was different from the desperate passion of Friday night. This was slower, deeper, a claiming that felt like a promise rather than just desire. I ended up in his lap, my dress riding up, his hands tangled in my hair. When he lifted me, carrying me to the bedroom, I didn't protest, didn't question, just held on and let myself fall. This time there was no urgency. He undressed me slowly, his mouth following the path of his hands, learning every sound I made, every place that made me gasp. When he finally settled between my thighs, his eyes held mine. "Tell me this is real," he demanded, his voice rough. "Tell me you feel this too." "It's real," I whispered, pulling him down. "I feel it too." Afterward, wrapped in his arms with the sheets tangled around us, I knew with absolute certainty that I'd passed the point of no return. Whatever happened next, whatever complications arose from his world and mine colliding, I was in too deep to walk away. Marcus's phone buzzed on the nightstand. He grabbed it with a muttered apology, his expression darkening as he read the screen. "Problem?" I asked. "Victoria's father wants a meeting. Tomorrow." He tossed the phone aside. "He's heard rumors about you." My stomach clenched. "What kind of rumors?" "That I've been seen with someone new. That I've been distracted." His jaw tightened. "He wants to remind me of our arrangement." "And what are you going to tell him?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to me, his expression fierce. "That the arrangement is off. That I'm not marrying his daughter." "Marcus, you can't just—" "Yes, I can." He pulled me closer. I'm done living my life according to other people's plans. Done making strategic choices that ignore what I actually want. And what do you want? His answer was simple, devastating. You. The fallout from Marcus's decision came swiftly and spectacularly. By Monday morning, my phone was ringing off the hook. Reporters wanting comments about my relationship with Marcus Castellano, society bloggers fishing for details, even a few threatening calls from numbers I didn't recognize telling me to stay away from what doesn't belong to me. Jess fielded most of them, her assistant skills suddenly including bodyguard duties as she screened every call and visitor to our studio. "This is insane," she said, hanging up on yet another persistent journalist. "How did they even get our number?" "Money buys information." I stared at my computer screen, trying to focus on work, despite the chaos erupting around me. The Castellano rebranding needed to move forward regardless of my personal life imploding. My phone buzzed. Marcus. "How bad is it? I've had 14 calls in the last hour. You? 236. But I have better screening. Show off. Come to the apartment tonight. We'll order in and hide from the world." I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But something stopped me. "I can't keep hiding in your apartment, Marcus. I have a business to run. Then let me send security." "No." "Maya, some of those calls weren't friendly. I gathered that when someone told me they'd take care of the problem if I didn't back off." The phone rang immediately. I answered, bracing for Marcus's reaction. "You received a threat and didn't tell me immediately?" His voice was dangerously calm. "What exactly did they say?" "It doesn't matter. It absolutely matters." I heard him moving, could picture him pacing his office with that controlled fury I'd seen glimpses of. "I'm sending—" "You're not sending anyone," I interrupted firmly. "I'm not a damsel who needs rescuing, Marcus. I knew there would be complications when I chose to be with you." "This isn't a complication. This is a direct threat to your safety. From your world." The words came out harsher than I intended. "From the life you've chosen, the name you carry. You told me yourself your family's reputation comes with danger." Silence on the other end. Then, "Are you saying you want out?" The question hung heavy between us. It would be so easy to say yes. To retreat back to my simple life before Marcus Castellano had crashed into it with his intensity and his complications, and his ability to make me feel things I'd never felt before. But the truth was, I didn't want out, despite the threats and the media circus, and the complete upheaval of my carefully ordered existence. I wanted him. "No," I said quietly. "I'm saying we need to figure out how to make this work without you wrapping me in bubble wrap." Another pause. "I don't know how to do that." "Learn." I softened my tone. "I'm not made of glass, Marcus. I'm tougher than I look." "I know you are. That's not the point." "Then what is?" "The point is that you've become important to me." His voice was raw with honesty. "Important enough that the thought of something happening to you makes me capable of things I've spent years trying to rise above." The admission sent a shiver through me. "What kind of things?" "The kind I promised my grandmother I'd leave behind." A bitter laugh. "Turns out blood runs deeper than promises. Who knew?" I closed my eyes, understanding crystallizing. "This is about more than just protecting me. This is about proving you're not your father." Perceptive. He sighed heavily. "Victoria's father called me a criminal this morning. Said I was proving everyone right about the Castellanos, that we can't escape what we are no matter how much legitimate business we hide behind." "And you're afraid he's right?" "I'm afraid—" He stopped, and I heard the vulnerability beneath the power. "I'm afraid I'm going to fail you the same way my father failed my mother." by dragging you into a world you never asked for and refusing to let you leave when it gets dangerous. Marcus. She tried to leave him, my mother, when I was 15. She'd had enough of the violence, the threats, the constant fear. His voice was distant, remembering. He convinced her to stay, promised things would change. They never did. What happened to her? She died in a car accident when I was 18, officially ruled mechanical failure. The way he said officially made it clear what he believed. I've spent every year since then building something different, something clean. And now I'm dragging you into the exact situation I watched destroy her. My heart broke for him, for the boy who'd watched his mother trapped, for the man trying desperately to be better than his legacy. I'm not your mother, I said gently, and you're not your father. You gave me a choice, Marcus. You warned me about the complications, offered me a way out. That's the difference. Is it enough? I don't know. Honesty compelled me. But I'm willing to find out if you are. Another pause. Come to dinner Sunday. Not at my apartment. My family's house. Your family? Panic flared. Marcus, I don't think... My sister Isabella is insisting. She's heard about you and wants to meet the woman who convinced me to finally end the Victoria charade. His tone lightened slightly. Fair warning, she's going to interrogate you mercilessly, and my nephew will probably spill something on you, possibly both. The normalcy of the invitation, meeting the family, Sunday dinner, felt surreal given everything else happening. But maybe that was the point. Finding ordinary moments in the chaos. What should I bring? Just yourself. His voice softened. Though maybe wear something washable. Antonio is 5 and has terrible aim with his juice boxes. A Bruce Namainkan Sunday arrived with the inevitability of a tidal wave. I changed outfits 6 times before settling on a simple dress that walked the line between casual and respectful, washable, as instructed. Marcus picked me up himself, arriving in a car that was expensive but not ostentatious. The drive out of the city took us to an estate in Westchester that made his Manhattan apartment look modest. This is where you grew up? I asked, staring at the sprawling Mediterranean-style villa surrounded by manicured grounds. Unfortunately, his expression was complicated. My father believed in displaying wealth. Subtle was never his style. A woman emerged from the front door as we pulled up, tall, beautiful, with Marcus's dark hair and sharp cheekbones. She practically ran to the car, yanking open my door before Marcus could come around. You must be Maya. She pulled me into a hug that smelled of expensive perfume and genuine warmth. I'm Isabella. Thank God you're real. I was starting to think Marcus made you up. Bella, Marcus warned, but there was affection in his tone. What? You've been suspiciously happy lately. It's disturbing. She looped her arm through mine, already leading me toward the house. Come on, everyone's dying to meet you. Mama's been cooking since Thursday. The interior was as opulent as the exterior suggested. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, artwork that belonged in museums. But there was warmth, too, in the family photos lining the hallways, the children's toys scattered in corners, the sound of laughter echoing from deeper in the house. We entered a kitchen that could have serviced a restaurant, where an older woman was orchestrating multiple dishes with the precision of a general commanding troops. She looked up as we entered, and her face lit up. Marcus! She wiped her hands on her apron, moving to embrace him before turning to me. And this must be Maya. Come here, Bambina. Let me look at you. I found myself submitted to an assessment that was thorough, but kind. She's beautiful, Marcus. And she has kind eyes. Good. The last one had eyes like a shark. Mama, Marcus protested, but he was smiling. What? I speak the truth. She patted my cheek. You eat, yes? You're too thin. Marcus, she's too thin. You need to feed her more. I'm trying, Mama. Try harder. She turned back to her cooking. Dinner will be ready in an hour. Isabella, take Maya to meet the others. Marcus, help me with this sauce. Isabella led me through to a massive living room where several people were gathered. A man who looked like an older version of Marcus stood by the windows, a phone pressed to his ear. A younger woman was chasing a small boy around the furniture while trying to balance a baby on her hip. That's Antonio, Isabella explained, pointing to the boy. And his mother, my cousin Teresa. The baby is Lucia, and the man on the phone is my husband, Roberto. Roberto ended his call and came over to shake my hand. The famous Maya. Marcus hasn't shut up about you for 3 weeks. Roberto, Isabella warned. What? It's true. He grinned at me. Fair warning. Sunday dinners can get loud and competitive. Mama takes her cooking very seriously, and everyone has opinions. They weren't kidding. When dinner was finally served, a feast that could have fed 20 people easily, the table erupted into cheerful chaos. Multiple conversations happening simultaneously, everyone talking over each other, hands gesturing wildly to emphasize points. Antonio did indeed spill his juice, though fortunately, on the tablecloth rather than on me. Marcus's mother scolded him gently while already refilling his cup. Teresa and Isabella argued passionately about the correct way to make tiramisu, while Roberto provided running commentary. And through it all, Marcus sat beside me, his hand finding mine under the table, his thumb tracing patterns on my wrist. This was his world, not the dangerous reputation or the criminal whispers. This was the truth, loud, loving, fiercely protective family that had somehow produced this complicated man beside me. You're thinking too hard, he murmured near my ear. Just observing. And? I like it. It's loud, but I like it. His hand squeezed mine. Good, because Mama's already planning our wedding. I nearly choked on my wine. What? She likes you. When Mama likes someone, she starts planning. He was trying to sound casual, but I could hear the tension underneath. Should I be worried that you look terrified? We've been together 3 weeks, Marcus. And I knew in the elevator. His eyes held mine. But we can take this as slow as you need. Before I could respond, Antonio appeared at my elbow. Are you my Uncle Marcus's girlfriend? I looked at Marcus helplessly. Yes, Marcus answered for me. She is. Are you going to get married? Antonio, Teresa called, trying to redirect him. Because if you get married, you'll be my aunt, and Nona says aunts are supposed to give good presents. His logic was flawless. I laughed despite my nervousness. I'll keep that in mind. Good. He nodded seriously. I want a dinosaur, a big one. As the evening wore on, I found myself relaxing into the chaos. Isabella regaled me with embarrassing stories about Marcus's childhood. Roberto offered unsolicited advice about dealing with Castellano's stubbornness. Even Marcus's mother cornered me in the kitchen while I was helping clean up. He's different with you, she said, her English heavily accented but clear. Lighter. Since his father died, Marcus has been so serious, always trying to prove something, to fix something. She touched my cheek gently. You make him remember how to smile. That's a gift. I don't know if I know. Her eyes were kind but knowing. You're scared. Of the name, the reputation, the life. But my son is a good man, Maya. He makes mistakes, yes. He carries darkness, yes. But his heart is good. How do you know I'm not just using him? For his money or connections? She laughed. Because you look at him like he's a person, not a bank account. And because you're here, in this kitchen, helping an old woman wash dishes when you could be sitting in the other room being served. She handed me a towel. You dry, I wash, and I tell you about the time Marcus tried to cook for a girl when he was 16 and nearly burned down this kitchen. By the time we left, it was nearly midnight. I was full of food and warmth and stories, my sides aching from laughter. Marcus loaded me into the car with careful hands, and we drove in comfortable silence for several minutes before I spoke. "Your family is wonderful. They're loud and invasive and have no concept of personal boundaries," he replied, but there was affection in his voice. "They love you. It's obvious in every word, every gesture." I turned to look at him in the dim interior of the car. "You're lucky to have them." "I know." His hand found mine across the console. "And now they're going to adopt you whether you're ready or not. Fair warning. Mama's going to start calling you for lunch dates. I could do worse." We pulled up to my building, and Marcus walked me to my door like this was a normal date, like our lives weren't complicated by threats and media attention and the weight of his family name. "Thank you," I said at my door, "for tonight, for sharing them with me. Thank you for surviving Antonio's interrogation." He pulled me close, his forehead resting against mine. "I know this is all happening fast, that there are complications we haven't even begun to address. But I need you to know something." "What?" "I'm falling for you, Maya Mitchell. Have been since you told me to breathe in that elevator." His voice was rough with emotion. "And I know that's probably too much too soon, but I'm tired of pretending I feel less than I do. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. I'm falling too, even though it terrifies me, even though I know all the reasons this is a terrible idea. Terrible ideas are kind of my specialty." He kissed me softly. "Get some sleep. I'll call you tomorrow." I watched him leave, then let myself into my apartment, leaning against the closed door with a ridiculous smile on my face. 3 weeks. I'd known him for 3 weeks, and somehow he'd become essential, necessary. The thought of my life without him in it was already unimaginable. My phone buzzed. "Already miss you. Is that pathetic?" "Completely," I texted back. "But I miss you too. Come stay at my place this weekend. I'll make my grandmother's carbonara. Are you bribing me with pasta? Is it working?" I laughed, typing my response. "Absolutely." Whatever happened next, whatever complications arose from choosing Marcus Castellano, I was ready to face them. Because somewhere between the wine stain and the Sunday dinner, between his threats and his tenderness, I'd stopped being afraid of falling. I'd already fallen. Now I just had to trust that he'd be there to catch me. The honeymoon phase, if it could be called that, lasted exactly 2 more weeks. I spent most nights at Marcus's apartment, working from his dining table while he handled business calls in his office. We fell into a domestic rhythm that felt both surreal and perfectly natural. Morning coffee together, stolen kisses between meetings, evenings where he cooked while I sketched designs and told him about my day. It was easy to forget in those moments that we were living in a bubble that couldn't last. The reminder came on a Tuesday morning when I showed up at my studio to find it had been vandalized. The windows were intact, but someone had broken in overnight and destroyed everything. Computers smashed, files scattered, my design boards ripped apart and spray-painted with messages I didn't want to decipher. Jess found me standing in the wreckage, too shocked to even cry. "Oh my God," she breathed. "Maya, did you call the police?" I nodded numbly. "They're on their way." What I didn't say was that I'd also called Marcus, and that he'd sounded coldly furious in a way that frightened me more than the vandalism itself. He arrived before the police, flanked by 2 men in dark suits who immediately began photographing everything. Marcus took one look around the space, his expression unreadable, before pulling me into his arms. "Are you hurt?" His hands moved over me, checking for injuries I didn't have. "I wasn't here when it happened. Jess and I both left around 8 last night. Then they were watching, waiting until the space was empty." His jaw was granite. "This is a message." "From who?" Before he could answer, 2 police officers arrived. What followed was surreal. giving statements, watching the officers take photos of the destruction, trying to explain that no, I didn't have any enemies, no recent disputes, nothing that would explain this level of malicious damage. Marcus stood silent through most of it, but I could feel the tension radiating from him. When the officers finally left with promises to look into it, he turned to me with eyes that had gone cold and dangerous. "Pack your things. You're staying with me until this is handled. I have to clean up, file insurance claims, figure out. My people will handle it." He was already texting someone. "You're not staying in that apartment alone, and you're not working out of a vandalized space that's clearly not secure. You can't just take over my life, Marcus. Watch me." He looked up from his phone. "This wasn't random, Maya. This was deliberate, targeted, and designed to send a very specific message to you. To us." "What message?" "That you're a vulnerability." His voice was flat, emotionless in a way that was worse than anger. "That hurting you is a way to hurt me." The words hung between us, heavy with implications. "Your world did this." Yes. No denial, no attempt to soften it. My world, my enemies, my responsibility. Jess, who'd been pretending not to listen, finally spoke up. "Maya, maybe you should go with him, at least until we know who did this." I wanted to argue, wanted to maintain my independence, my sense that I could handle this alone. But the truth was, I was terrified. Not just of whoever had destroyed my studio, but of what it meant that loving Marcus Castellano came with this kind of price. "Fine," I said finally. "But I'm not hiding forever. We figure this out, we handle it, and then my life goes back to normal." Marcus's expression said he didn't believe normal was possible anymore, but he nodded. Agreed. Living with Marcus full-time was different from stolen nights and weekends. I saw him at his worst, stressed from business deals, short-tempered from lack of sleep, occasionally taking calls in Italian that left him looking years older when they ended. But I also saw him at his best. The way he brought me coffee in bed every morning, how he cleared his schedule when I needed to vent about the insurance company being difficult, the quiet pride in his voice when he showed his mother photos of my recovered design work. "You should keep an office here," he said one night, gesturing to the spare room adjacent to his own office. "Turn it into your studio. Better security, and I'd like having you close." That sounds dangerously permanent. Would that be so terrible? He pulled me onto his lap, his arms coming around my waist. Having something permanent with me? I studied his face, the sharp angles, the storm gray eyes that had become as familiar to me as my own reflection. "Ask me again when we're not dealing with death threats and vandalism." "Maya, I'm not saying no, Marcus. I'm saying that I want to make that decision from a place of choice, not fear." I touched his face gently. "When this is over, when I know I'm choosing you because I want you, and not because I need your protection, ask me again." His arms tightened around me. "And if I can't keep you safe? If my world is always going to mean danger for you? Then we figure that out together." I kissed him softly. "But I won't live my whole life afraid, and I won't let whoever did this win by making me run." 2 days later, Marcus came home with news. "We found who vandalized your studio," he said without preamble. "Small-time crew hired by someone connected to Victoria's father." My stomach dropped. "Robert Ashford did this? The district attorney?" "Not directly. He used intermediaries, plausible deniability." Marcus's voice was ice cold. "But yes, this was his response to me ending the engagement arrangement." "What are you going to do?" "What I should have done years ago. End any association with him completely, consequences be damned." He poured himself a drink with controlled movements. I've already started moving our legitimate business away from any connections to his office. That'll hurt you politically. I don't care. He took a long swallow. He went after you, Maya. He crossed a line I can't uncross. And the men who actually did it? His expression went carefully blank. Being handled. I didn't ask what that meant. Wasn't sure I wanted to know. Marcus, you can't just... Yes, I can. He set down the glass with a decisive click. You were right that I've spent years trying to be different from my father. Building legitimate businesses, staying on the right side of the law. But there are some things that require old solutions. That's not who you want to be. Maybe not. His eyes met mine, dark and fierce. But it's who I need to be to protect what's mine. And you, Maya Mitchell, are mine. Anyone who threatens you learns that lesson the hard way. I should have been frightened by the possessiveness in his voice, the cold certainty that he would do violence to protect me. Instead, I felt something shift inside me, a recognition that this was the whole of Marcus Castellano, not just the parts he wanted to show. Dangerous, protective, ruthless when necessary, and mine as much as I was his. Come here, I said softly. He crossed to me, and I pulled him down into a kiss that communicated what words couldn't, that I saw him, all of him, and wasn't running. When we finally broke apart, his forehead rested against mine. I love you, he said, the words raw and honest. I know it's fast and probably crazy, but I love you. I love you too. The admission felt like stepping off a cliff. Even though you're bossy and overprotective and occasionally terrifying. His laugh was shaky. Especially because I'm all those things. Maybe a little. I pulled back to look at him. But we need to talk about boundaries, about what I'm comfortable with and what crosses lines. Okay. He was already listening, his full attention on me. Tell me. We talked for hours, about what protection I needed versus what felt like control, about how to handle his family's business without pretending it didn't exist, about my need for independence balanced against his need to keep me safe. It wasn't perfect. We didn't solve everything, but we were honest with each other in a way I'd never been with anyone before. I want to meet her, I said eventually. Victoria. I want to hear from her that it's really over, that I'm not stepping into something that's going to blow up later. Marcus looked surprised. You want to meet my ex-fiancé who wasn't really my fiancé? I want to know I'm not ruining anyone's life by being with you. He considered this, then nodded. I'll arrange it. But Maya, you're not ruining anything. If anything, you saved me from making a massive mistake. The meeting with Victoria Ashford happened at a neutral location, a high-end tea room that screamed old money and discretion. She arrived exactly on time, tall and elegant in a way that made me feel underdressed despite my best efforts. Maya Mitchell, she said, extending a perfectly manicured hand. I've been curious to meet the woman who inspired Marcus to finally grow a spine. I blinked at her directness. That's one way to put it. It's the accurate way. She ordered tea with the ease of someone who'd been doing this since childhood. I assume you want to know if I'm heartbroken and plotting revenge? Something like that. I'm not. She settled back in her chair, studying me with intelligent hazel eyes. Marcus and I were a convenient arrangement. Useful to both our families, potentially advantageous politically. But there was zero chemistry, and even less affection. Then why agree to it? Because it made sense. Because it was expected. Because I'm 28 and tired of disappointing my father. She shrugged elegantly. But I never loved Marcus, and he certainly never loved me. We would have made a terrible married couple. Some of the tension I'd been carrying eased. Your father isn't taking the news well. My father is a controlling bastard who thinks he can manipulate everyone around him. Her expression hardened. What he did to your studio was unacceptable, and I've told him so. Not that he'll listen. You know about that? I know everything about my father's business, both the official kind and the other kind. She leaned forward. Fair warning, Maya. He's not going to let this go easily. He sees you as the reason his perfect plan fell apart. I didn't plan any of this. Neither did I. A small smile. But here we are, two women dealing with the consequences of powerful men and their schemes. She stirred her tea thoughtfully. Marcus is a good man, you know. Complicated and occasionally terrifying, but good where it counts. Treat him well. I intend to. Good. She stood, gathering her designer handbag. And Maya, don't let my father intimidate you. He's all bark. Marcus, on the other hand. She smiled knowingly. Marcus actually bites. Remember that. After she left, I sat alone with my tea, processing the conversation. Victoria had been nothing like I'd expected. No jealousy, no bitterness, just practical assessment and surprising support. My phone buzzed. Marcus. How did it go? She's scarier than you are. Impossible. Also, she likes me, I think. Everyone likes you. It's annoying how likable you are. You're biased. Absolutely. Come home. I'm making dinner. Home. He'd started calling his apartment that, our home. And the terrifying part was, it was starting to feel true. I gathered my things and headed back to the apartment that had somehow become mine as much as his, to the man who was waiting with dinner and probably too much wine and that smile that still made my heart race. Whatever happened next, whatever complications arose from loving Marcus Castellano, I was ready. Because home wasn't a place anymore. Home was wherever he was. And I was finally ready to admit I was exactly where I belonged. 3 months after the wine stain heard round the office, I stood in our apartment, staring at my reflection in the bedroom mirror. The deep green dress I wore was new, purchased specifically for tonight's event. Marcus's company was hosting a charity gala, and I would be there not as his designer, but as his official date. The media would be present, his business associates, people who still whispered about the Castellano name and what it really meant. And I would be standing beside him, making a very public statement about where I belonged. You're nervous, Marcus said, appearing behind me in the mirror. He was devastating in his tuxedo, looking every inch the powerful mogul everyone believed him to be. Terrified, I admitted. What if I say the wrong thing? What if someone asks me questions I can't answer? He turned me to face him, his hand settling on my waist. Then you smile politely and say it's not your area, or you tell them to mind their own business. Either works. Your mother would have a heart attack if I told someone to mind their own business. My mother would applaud you for having a spine. He kissed my temple. You've already won over the people who matter, Maya. Everyone else is just noise. The gala was being held at one of Marcus's premier properties, a renovated warehouse turned luxury event space that showcased exactly the kind of transformation I'd designed the branding campaign around. Seeing my work on this scale, displayed for hundreds of the city's elite, sent a thrill through me that had nothing to do with nerves. You did this, Marcus murmured near my ear as we entered. This is all you. The evening was a blur of introductions and careful conversations. I met politicians and business leaders, society matrons and philanthropists. Each one assessed me with varying degrees of judgment or approval, and I did my best to project the confidence I didn't quite feel. Brandon Hightower made an appearance halfway through the evening, his smugness somehow even more pronounced than before. Maya, he said, his tone dripping false friendship. Congratulations on the Castellano account, though I have to wonder, is it your design skills he's really interested in? Before I could respond, Marcus materialized at my side. Hightower, he said pleasantly, though his eyes were cold. I see security let you in despite my specific instructions. Brandon paled. Mr. Castellano, I was just... Leaving, Marcus finished for him. Vincent? One of his security team appeared instantly. Mr. Hightower was just departing. Please escort him to his car. I watched Brandon be led away, then turned to Marcus. You know I can handle him myself. I know. His hand found the small of my back. But why should you have to when I'm standing right here? The possessive gesture should have annoyed me. Instead, I leaned into his touch, acknowledging the truth. I liked having someone in my corner, someone who would defend me without being asked. Dance with me, he said, leading me toward the floor where other couples were already swaying to the live orchestra. In his arms, surrounded by glittering lights and beautiful people, I felt the last of my anxiety melt away. This was right. We were right. I have something for you, Marcus said as the song ended. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket, and my heart stopped. Marcus, if that's what I think it is, it's not. He smiled at my obvious relief. I promised to ask you again when things were settled, when you could choose me freely. We're not there yet. He opened the box to reveal a delicate key on a silver chain. But I thought you might want this. Official access to our home. Our home. The words settled over me like a warm blanket. I already have a key, I pointed out, even as I took the necklace. That was practical. This is symbolic. He fastened it around my neck, the key settling just above my heart. Though if you'd prefer to wait until I can give you a different kind of jewelry. Don't push your luck, Castellano. But I was smiling, touching the key with fingers that trembled slightly. Thank you. It's perfect. The rest of the evening passed in a pleasant haze. Marcus introduced me as his partner to everyone important, his hand never leaving my back or my hand, claiming me publicly in a way that left no room for doubt or speculation. We left early, making excuses about exhaustion, though in reality, we couldn't stand being surrounded by people when all we wanted was each other. In the car, Marcus pulled me onto his lap, kissing me with an intensity that left me breathless. Do you have any idea how difficult it was? He murmured against my lips, watching you all evening in this dress and not being able to touch you the way I wanted? We were in public. You touched me plenty. Not the way I wanted. His hands slid up my thighs, pushing the dress higher. Not like this. By the time we made it upstairs to the apartment, we were already half undressed. Marcus backed me against the door the moment it closed, his mouth on my neck, his hands everywhere. Bedroom, I managed breathlessly. Too far. He lifted me easily, carrying me to the couch instead, laying me down among the cushions as he knelt between my legs. What followed was desperate and intense. Months of tension and emotion channeled into the way we moved together, the way we knew exactly how to make each other come undone. Afterward, sprawled in a tangle of limbs and expensive fabric, I felt Marcus press a kiss to my shoulder. Move in with me, he said. Officially. Not just staying over most nights, but actually making this your home. I propped myself up on one elbow to look at him. I'm already here most of the time. I know, but I want it official. I want your name on the lease, your mail coming here, your awful grocery choices cluttering up my refrigerator. My grocery choices are not awful. You bought spray cheese, Maya. Spray cheese. It's convenient. He pulled me down for a kiss. Move in anyway. Let me deal with your terrible food choices and your habit of leaving design sketches everywhere and the way you steal all the blankets at night. You're making this sound really appealing, I said dryly. Please. His voice went serious. I want to wake up with you every morning. I want to come home to you every night. I want this to be ours, not just mine with you visiting. I touched his face, feeling the truth of his words. Okay. Okay? Hope lit his eyes. Yes, I'll move in, officially, spray cheese and all. His kiss was fierce and possessive, acclaiming that I returned with equal intensity. When we finally broke apart, he was grinning like he'd won the lottery. You won't regret this. If I do, I'll just steal more of your shirts until you kick me out. Never going to happen. He pulled me closer. You're stuck with me, Mitchell. Better get used to it. The next morning, I woke to find Marcus already awake, watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. What? I asked, suddenly self-conscious. Just thinking about how different my life is now compared to 6 months ago. He brushed hair from my face. How much better. Sweet talker. Only for you. He kissed my forehead. I have a meeting this morning, but when I get back, we're officially moving your things. All of them. No more keeping one foot out the door. Bossy. You love it. The terrible part was, I did. While Marcus was at his meeting, I started the process of packing up my apartment. Jess came over to help, though she spent more time teasing me than actually being useful. I can't believe you're actually doing this, she said, wrapping my dishes in newspaper. Moving in with Marcus Castellano, living the dream. It's not a dream, it's just life. Life in a penthouse apartment with a man who looks like a Greek god and probably has more money than some small countries. She rolled her eyes. Yeah, super normal. You know it's not about the money. I know. Her expression softened. You love him, and he clearly loves you. It's disgustingly sweet. My phone rang. Isabella. Maya, I just heard. You're moving in. This is wonderful. Her enthusiasm was infectious. We need to go shopping. You need things for the apartment. Marcus's apartment is fully furnished. Our apartment needs your touches, your style, things that make it yours, not just his. She was already planning. Tomorrow, we shop, no arguments. True to her word, Isabella showed up the next day with a list of stores and a determination to properly outfit my new home. We spent hours picking out throw pillows, artwork, kitchen gadgets that I'd actually use, unlike Marcus's pristine showpieces. You're good for him, she said over lunch. I haven't seen Marcus this happy since before our father died. You've given him something to care about beyond the business. I'm not trying to change him. I know. That's why it works. She squeezed my hand. But thank you for loving my stubborn, overprotective, occasionally impossible brother. That evening, surrounded by boxes and new purchases, Marcus and I turned his apartment into ours. My books on his shelves, my art on his walls, my terrible spray cheese in his refrigerator. It looks different, he said, surveying the changes. More lived in. Is that a complaint? It's perfect. He pulled me against his chest. You're perfect. I'm really not. Perfect for me, then. He kissed the top of my head. Same thing. We ordered takeout and ate sitting on the floor among the boxes, talking about everything and nothing. It was ordinary and domestic, and absolutely perfect. I need to tell you something, Marcus said eventually, his tone serious enough to make me nervous. Okay. Robert Ashford is still making noise, threatening investigations into my business practices, my family connections. He set down his container. It's probably nothing. He has no real evidence, but I wanted you to be aware. Will it affect the business? No. We're clean. Have been for years. His jaw tightened. But it might mean more media attention, more speculation. I wanted you prepared. I thought about running, about backing away from the complications that came with loving Marcus Castellano. But the truth was, I'd already made my choice. I'd moved my life into his apartment, woven myself into his family, fallen completely and irrevocably in love with him. We'll handle it, I said firmly. Together. Together, he agreed, relief evident in his expression. Later, lying in bed with Marcus's arms around me and the city lights painting patterns on the ceiling, I thought about the journey from that elevator to this moment. Every choice, every complication, every moment of fear and doubt. No regrets? Marcus murmured, half asleep. I thought about the wine stain that had started everything. About Brandon's face when he'd been escorted out. About Sunday dinners with Marcus's loud, loving family. About coming home to this man every night. Not a single one, I answered honestly. His arms tightened around me, and I felt him smile against my shoulder. Good, because I'm not letting you leave. Wouldn't dream of it, and I wouldn't. This was home now. Not the apartment or the city, but the man holding me like I was precious. The life we were building together, complicated and messy and absolutely perfect. I fell asleep wrapped in Marcus's arms, wearing his shirt, surrounded by our combined lives, and dreaming of all the ordinary, extraordinary moments still to come. 6 months later, I stood in Marcus's office, our office now, since I'd taken him up on the offer to work from his building, reviewing the final mock-ups for a new campaign when he walked in carrying 2 coffee cups. Vanilla latte, he said, setting one on my desk. And before you complain about me interrupting your work, I was going to say thank you. I accepted the coffee with a kiss. But since you mentioned it, I am on a deadline. So am I. He leaned against my desk, his expression unreadable. 5 minutes? Something in his tone made me set down my pen. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket, different from the key he'd given me months ago. But I have a question. My heart stopped. Marcus, you told me to ask you again when things were settled, when you could choose me freely without fear or pressure. He opened the box to reveal a stunning diamond ring. We've lived together for 6 months. You've survived 4 Sunday dinners with my family. You've put up with my overprotective tendencies and my terrible morning mood and my habit of rearranging your design sketches. You don't rearrange them. You improve them, I corrected, my voice shaking. Maya Mitchell. He slid off the desk, going down on one knee in front of me. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life spilling wine on your blouses and stealing your spray cheese and loving you more than I thought I was capable of loving anyone? I looked down at this impossible man who'd crashed into my life in an elevator and never left, who challenged me and protected me and made me laugh and occasionally made me want to strangle him, who loved me with an intensity that still took my breath away. Yes, I whispered. Obviously, yes. He slid the ring onto my finger, then pulled me down for a kiss that communicated everything words couldn't, promise and passion and forever. When we finally broke apart, I was crying and laughing simultaneously. Your mother is going to lose her mind, I managed. She's already planning the wedding. He grinned. Has been since the day she met you. Of course she has. He pulled me into his lap, and we sat there in my office, our office, planning a future that seemed both impossible and inevitable. No regrets? He asked, echoing the question from months ago. I looked at the ring on my finger, at the man holding me like I was precious, at the life we'd built from a chance encounter, and one ruined blouse. Not a single one, I said. Though you should probably know. I'm never giving back your shirts. His laugh was rich and genuine. I'm counting on it. And as Marcus kissed me again, the afternoon sun streaming through the office windows and the city sprawling beneath us, I knew with absolute certainty that this was exactly where I was meant to be. Home wasn't a place. It was this man, this moment, this imperfect, perfect life we'd built together. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. Done.